We're speaking now to Loek Knijff from the Dutch Ministry of Environment. Mr. Knijff, can you broadly tell us about what you have been addressing to the conference today?
Well, I'm actually from the Dutch Ministry of Water Management, but that's a bit wrong here. And that's what I'm here for. We are at this moment implementing the Floods Directive, the European Floods Directive, which is very interesting also for our country, as we are a downstream country with four big rivers entering our country, and all lowland. You know that half of the Netherlands is floodable. We have a lot of policy in place, a lot of measures in place, but nevertheless we welcomed this directive, and we want to implement it really seriously, as far as we haven't done it yet, of course. And it's very useful to see the ideas of other countries and research organizations, how things that we are also still coping with can be resolved. Yeah.
How do you feel the Floods Directive? Do you think it gives your country, the Netherlands, a good basis, good tools, let's say, to implement a good floods policy for the future?
In principle, yes, but in fact, a lot we had implemented already. And what we welcomed the directive mostly for is let's say, the international solidarity. We had very good relationships with our neighboring countries from which the water enters, but of course these relationships were sometimes based on, you might say, personal acquaintances and goodwill. You know, it's better to know that there's European law backing that up. Not that we mistrust them, but we all know that in times of difficulties, well, one looks first as I would say, at his own pocket and own problems. And we realize, by the way, that the solidarity is also from downstream to upstream. We shouldn't create things in our country that makes us so vulnerable that it is an impossible task for our upstream neighbors to keep us protected. So the directive works in two directions, but we think that European backup of solidarity is very important. Yeah.
What measures or steps have been taken in the Netherlands in relation to floods that you think could serve as examples of best practice for your EU partners?
Well, traditionally, of course, it was all protection. We have some very good practice there, I think. I mean, the storm surge barriers in the province of Zeeland, we just saw a presentation from that part of the Netherlands. They are world famous. Nowadays, we are more advocating, let's say, the working with nature approach. Although we are in the comfortable position that we have already a lot of artificial protection, of course, but now with climate change becoming an important issue, we also see the limits of that. We see that awareness raising of people gets more important, because there's always a kind of rest risk. I mean, and they should be aware of what to do when things go wrong. But we also see that we have to give rivers more space, and well, we can't easily give the sea more space, but there we are working on well, awareness, crisis management to organize that more properly, and also kind of resilience of our natural and artificial barriers. So there's still something to learn, and we have been learning ourselves things, and that's also something that we try, that knowledge or that experience that we try to spread. Yeah.
The reality of climate change obviously will impact on all future water policy. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the Floods Directive gives the right, goes in the right direction in terms of sustainability?
It certainly goes into the right direction. But it will take some time. This directive, well, the first plans have to be ready in 2015, and their horizon is very far. Although every 6 years the plans are reviewed and you are going to evaluate where you got. But we should realize that really to get sustainable flood management, that will take much longer, of course, than 6 years. And fortunately the directive doesn't put any stringent deadlines. But we will need many decades to slowly, or to get to more let's say, robust measures. Now measures are based on things that also can go wrong. Dikes that can break and perhaps are too close to the river, but you don't break them down easily. We are thinking about in the Netherlands to make us less vulnerable, to create very very broad dikes that could even overflow a bit without breaching. So you get some water behind it, but not really catastrophes. But in that space where the dike should be, there are houses now. You are not going to chase those people. We have seen a lecture about the situation in Scotland and many parts in Europe where agriculture created problems by deforestation, for instance. You are not going to send all the farmers away because first you stimulated them to build up their business, and now you're going to say, we got another idea, get out of here. You can't do that, of course. So it takes really very, very long time. But the awareness among politicians that we should go in that direction is given already by this directive, because sustainability and robustness, you can find that in many places in the articles of the directive.
And this type of forum, the EWA conference, this is the 5th one to be held in Brussels. Do you think it provides the right type of interactive forum to raise awareness and to exchange ideas?
Well, yes, it is a right type. Although I think that that lectures alone, and then the audience knowing that there is some 5 minutes or perhaps even minus 5 minutes to ask some questions. So I mean they are a bit behind on schedule, for instance. That is not stimulating too much the discussion. We get, of course, discussions during the breaks. And that's, by the way, it's not something typical of this workshop or conference. It's all where these events are held. We always see that some very interesting discussions take place during breaks, but that's usually bilateral or with 3 people perhaps. I think that in the future we could also have some formula where we really have, let's say, discussion sessions with about 10 people and very short lectures, and then really discussing that, because now we accept what is told. We have our thoughts. Sometimes we don't understand it, but we are silent because we have to go on to the next lecture. And it would be interesting, really, if we could get more dialogue with speakers. But that's a formula. I have never met it yet, but it's a challenge for the future, I might say.
Okay, yeah. Interesting ideas for the future there. Okay, Loek, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.